Carlos Nelson with Cascade Sports, and today we have a special guest. We have Mr. Bob Kendricks of the Negro League, and he's going to talk about the new coin that is going to be minted. How you doing, Bob?
Carlos, I'm doing great, man. Thanks so much for having me on the show. It's good to see you again.
It's good to be seen. Hey, Bob, tell our audience a little bit about what's going on with the new coin and how excited you are about that.
Well, number one, we were excited to be able to get the legislation passed in order to allow the Mint to create a commemorative coin recognizing the 100th anniversary of the Negro Leagues. And as you well know, particularly during a tumultuous political season, as we saw last year in a presidential election year, it wasn't easy, as you could well imagine, to get bipartisan legislation passed. You know, the Republicans and Democrats very seldom agreed on anything. So if the Democrats said it was sunny outside, the Republicans going to say, no, it ain't, but thanks to Congressman Emanuel Cleaver on the Democratic side, Republican Congressman Steve Stivers, Senator Tim Kaine, Democrat, Senator Roy Blunt, Republican, they were able to help push this through and get all the necessary votes so that it could go to the president for him to sign. And so coming in 2022, there will be a commemorative coin recognizing the 100th anniversary of the birth of the Negro Leagues. And so it's very prestigious. You know, to get these coins, Carlos, is not easy. They
Hey,
only issue two of these a year.
cut you off a minute. Before we got on the air, I talked to you. I think, boy, that was a Herculean atlas. All of those holding the world up to make that happen. And tell me this: do you think? I think you used the term bittersweet. Do you think timing was everything on this deal?
Oh, there's no question. There's no, timing is always of the essence, no matter what we do in this crazy world. And I do think the social conditions of our nation and some of the things that were happening, particularly after the George Floyd murder, made people a little bit more sensitive to these kinds of cultural efforts. But I also think the work that we've done over 30 years with the Negro League Baseball Museum put us in a position to be successful in this endeavor. I don't think there was anybody who was going to be against us getting this coin. But when they've got so much stuff going on, it's just hard to knock on door after door after door as you need to do in order to get the necessary votes. And so, yeah, it is very prestigious. Like I said, they only issue two of these a year, and it's very competitive. But beyond the prestige, once this coin is minted in 2022, man, if we sell all the coins that are minted, we will raise over $6 million for this museum. And we can then also use that for leverage for matching funds. And so we're talking about the possibility of a $12 million plus windfall for this museum. That is a game changer for an organization our size.
What do you think you could do with that type of money, or have you even pondered? I'm saying
I'm,
it relates to
I'm, prob- I'm probably going to ride off into the sunset, man. I will have done my job. No, no, but
what's up?
What you want to do, Carlos, and for me, and I think this is anything. I think it's for you and anybody else who is affiliated with a business or an agency or an organization that you want to leave it better than you found it. That's what we're trying to do. And for this museum to be able to operate in perpetuity, to have sustainable revenue, that's the goal. We started this project in such a non-traditional fashion. Most museums are started with an endowment already in place. We're so fond of saying we started this thing with a hope and a prayer. That was 30 years ago across the street inside the Lincoln Building, but you did have a dedicated few that believed this story deserved to be told and it needed to be preserved and celebrated and illuminated. And we embarked on that journey. But now it's about sustainability. It is about how can this museum operate moving into the future and the impact that it can have on future generations of young people. And that's what I'm committing and dedicating myself to. And I think if we can do that, man, I will be able to say job well done.
Well, from my perspective, what you just said, I, me, I'd be pressing uh, the Major League
Yeah,
Baseball and not just Major League Baseball, Major League players. They're making hundreds of millions of dollars, and they could put something in perpetuity, what you're talking
yeah,
about, with money that is just earning interest.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, that's the goal. I mean,
right,
that's the goal. As we start to be able to leverage these opportunities, you don't want to leave any stone unturned. You're knocking on all doors, including those who have made their living in this game, particularly those who are black and brown who have made their living in this game, because it does not happen without the players of the Negro Leagues.
all right. Well, see, you're right. Hold it. I'm looking at because we had this conversation before, and you was like, uh, all sports
All
attached
roads.
to the Negro
Yeah,
League. And I
yeah.
listened to you. I was like, Bob want me to drink this Kool-Aid. But then, yeah, but then I'm saying over the last 4 or 5 years, examining it, when I'm in sports, I'm listening to other players in other sports talk about when they play baseball. I was like, Dr. J, what was you doing on the
Well,
baseball?
and I don't know if you saw it, but I posted a picture of Dr. King meeting Willie Mays.
I seen
And,
it.
and Carlos, to see Dr. King, the smile on Dr. King's face, meeting the legendary Willie Mays, he was like a kid again. That's baseball, man. And I'm a fan of every sport. I played small college basketball. I've always been a fan of the NFL. I even watch soccer and hockey. Don't understand it, but I watch it.
Right,
But
right.
but baseball strikes you in a different way. There's a certain romanticism around the game of baseball. And even if you didn't play the game, you likely have a memory around it. And
Hey,
to see that smile
hey,
on
Bob,
Dr. King's face, man, was
my family,
incredible.
hey, my family's from South Carolina, and they used to send me down uh, by Sumter and Florence in
Yeah.
the summertime, and in that community, they had one of those fields that you see on TV. It's dusty, but
Yeah.
black. I'm saying I never seen no white teams, but it was black. It was almost like that bingo long type, you know, uh, for real in the South where them teams was traveling.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they come out. The country people come out. That
They got the picnic baskets and
Right.
everything.
I was wanted to ask you, like when I was young, I had baseball friends. They always was talking about the National League was much better than the American League. All right. So I'm saying this now. Black baseball and white baseball back then, to me, there was a difference.
Oh, big difference. Oh, tremendous difference. You
Run that
know,
down.
the pace of the game was different. The Negro Leagues brought a style of play, Carlos, that was bold and daring, aggressive. So they were going to bunt their way on. They're going to steal second and steal third. And man, if you weren't too smart, they were going to steal home. Buck O'Neill would say that the major leaguers would oftentimes accuse them of showboating. They're showboaters. A guy went in the hole, dove, flipped it behind his back, started the double play. Oh, they just showboating. But as Buck would say, number one, if you got something to show, show it. Don't be ashamed to show it. Show it. Let people see what you got.
I like that.
Number
I'm
two
feeling
that. Number two is only showboating when you can't do it. Yeah, and so, but that moniker kind of stuck with those players. And the reason that your friends love the National League was because the National League was far more aggressive in signing that black talent coming out of the Negro Leagues. And so the National League started dominating all-star games. They
right.
started winning World Series. The late, great Bob Gibson, God bless his soul, said that they thought that the American League was a place where old ball players went to die.
Because, I went to school in Ohio, Central State, back in the early 70s, and Johnny Bench
Yeah.
and Pete Rose
Joe
and
Morgan, all these guys.
yeah, I'm like, it was like no let up. And note, when I lived in Long Island, Willie Mays lived right down the street from me when in East Elmhurst, over by the airport, when they had Shea Stadium, and he was a Mets. And
Yeah, that time we was you briefly
all right,
yeah.
and growing up, my paternal family, grandmother, 534 West 152nd Street between Broadway and Amsterdam, Polo Grounds was a place where you went to see a lot of games. And I didn't realize that as you grow up, because I seen when going to the Bronx, going past from Manhattan, you would go past the Polo Grounds, but didn't understand the significance of, I look at Willie Mays as a Met, but the world looks at Willie Mays as a San Francisco Giant.
And a New York Giant before that.
Right, over there at the Polo Ground. That's what I'm saying. So that shows you the transition in baseball.
Yeah.
How has that lended to your coin even? Because I know all this stuff has to have a
it does. The museum's ability to illuminate this history over 30 years and then to help people understand that icons of this game, Jackie Robinson, Willie Mays, Henry Aaron, Roy Campanella.
That's Ernie what I was just getting ready to say.
Yeah, these are some of the biggest names in Major League Baseball history who came out of the Negro Leagues. And Carlos, they were just a sampling of the talent that was there in the Negro Leagues. So there's no question, had the doors opened sooner, the record books would be entirely different.
That guy, Roy Campanello, Bob, all right, he had a sports goods store.
Yeah.
And when Letters High School, he donated to Taft High School, our track team, when they came out with that spandex stuff. You remember everything used to be fleece like. I had never heard of him before Coach sent us down there, and he was in a wheelchair.
He was in a wheelchair. He had been paralyzed as a result of a car accident that cut his career short.
They said he was a hell of a catcher.
Campy started catching in the Negro Leagues for the Baltimore Elite Giants. Now, it's spelled elite, but it's pronounced elite. Because you make those Negro Leaguers mad if you call them the Elite Giants. They were the Elite Giants. And Campy started catching for them, Carlos, when he was 15 years old. Now, he was no ordinary 15-year-old. That was a big 15-year-old kid. But he's playing professionally in the Negro Leagues. So by the time that Roy Campanella gets to the Brooklyn Dodgers, he had already caught professionally for about 10 years. And the great Negro Leagues catcher, Raleigh Biz Mackey, took a young Roy Campanella under his wings and taught him the art of catching. And if Roy Campanella was alive today, he'd tell you the greatest defensive catcher ever was Biz Mackey. And then Roy Campanella would go on to become a 3-time MVP for the Brooklyn Dodgers. And then, of course, he has a tragic car accident that left him paralyzed and cut his career short.
I hate that all my good players migrated out to California, because they all was in New York, baby boy.
They were all in New York because you didn't even have that Western expansion at that time. And so truth of the matter is, people who were Dodger fans and Giant fans, when they left to go out to Los Angeles and San Francisco, they hated that.
Yeah,
it was hard for them to be a fan. Yeah, exactly. And then others would later become Mets fans. But yeah, man, that hurt them. It hurt them tremendously to lose those teams. New York had it going on.
Oh, I realize that now that I'm saying I'm an adult, but when you're a kid, that's just like Willie Mays living down the street, and then Muhammad Ali was getting ready to move in the neighborhood.
Well, here in Kansas City, it was like all those folks who stayed right next door to Satchel Paige and didn't realize how great Satchel Paige was
I'm
until he
glad
died.
you mentioned Satchel Paige. So last night I'm talking to somebody and they asking me about one of my in-laws, Kushan, and Satchel Paige's house. And they tell me that this white guy bought the house and is renovating.
Now the city has it.
All right. Well, I'm saying, see, information. That I'm glad I
Yeah,
bring this up because I
yeah.
was like, soon as he said that, I remember the conversation I had with you about Kushan when the fire first started and the Negro League was trying to,
Yeah.
and see, that's why public, that's why you need to support the Negro League financially, because if they had that money in the bank, I know y'all would have bought that house.
Yeah, no, and we're still trying to
Trying
figure
to,
out what we can do with the house. First thing first is to shore it up structurally so that there's no more damage. And then secondly, try and restore it. And then, hopefully put together a solid game plan to make sure that Satchel's house, number one, gets historic recognition
on the
because it's good.
registry.
Boy, if those walls could talk. Man, if those walls could talk. You talk about the litany of great stars, some of the biggest stars in Black sports and entertainment history spent time at that house.
Tell me
Because
this.
it wasn't just limited to baseball players. Satchel was connected to everybody. So
Flying
we're
around in
talking.
planes, I guess he was. I guess he was. He's the man. Tell me this, Bob. When we talk about legends, for real, you know how it's a lot of hyperbole and things get blown out. Just how good was this man? When you did that piece and you said he put the chewing gum wrapper on the home plate, and then that wasn't enough. Then you said he on both edges of the chewing gum wrapper on the ball. How good was he versus the hyperbole?
as Buck O'Neill would say, Carlos, he was better than that. He had the total package. He had everything to be a big star. He had the longevity, he had the great stuff, and he had the charisma. So he could sell it. Because no matter how good you are, you still have to have the ability to make people want to see what you got. And everybody wanted to see what Satchel had. The man would ride into towns, and if the town had 1,000 people in it, you can rest assured 900 were going to be at the ball game. The town would literally shut down. And so for me, you'll hear some folks say, well, Smokey Joe Williams threw just as hard as Satchel, or such and such, was just as good as Satchel. But man, when you're the measuring stick, yeah, when you become the measure that everybody else is equating to, you must be pretty special. And Satchel was pretty special. When he gets to the majors, as we talked when we did that little series of vignettes, he was believed to be 42. He was likely closer to 52.
He ain't
And
never tell
so
nobody nothing.
I told his real age. And so he's coming out of the bullpen when he first gets to Cleveland, 1948. And so they gave him a few games out the bullpen so the old man can get his legs underneath him. And then they put him in the starting lineup. And I recall a game they were playing in Chicago's Comiskey Park. And Carlos, they got 55,000 people in the ballpark to see the old man pitch. But it gets better than that. They had to turn away another 12,000 who couldn't get in. He beat the White Sox 5-0. They go back to Cleveland and they're playing the White Sox again. Now, Cleveland had this huge ballpark, old municipal stadium. I don't know, it seated almost 90,000. They got 70 plus thousand people in the ballpark to see the old man pitch again. This time he shuts the White Sox out 1-0. Larry Doby drives in the winning run. Now this is at 42 or possibly 52. There is no one to compare Satchel Paige to.
He seems like, I'm talking about now, besides baseball, and you're the antithesis of those old guys on dress and style. Uh, how do you see that? All the pictures I see of Satchel Paige, this Negro was dapper.
I think the kids call it swag. I think that's what they call it. They call it swag. Satchel had mad swag. I mean, so everything about him, Carlos, had star power, and you can see him in pictures there in Harlem, and everybody's drawn around him, or pictures of him.
I got a picture of him at the St. Teresa's Hotel.
Yeah, and so everybody wanted to be him. Everybody wanted to be around him, and that's what Buck always talked about. When Satchel Paige walked in the room lit up. Yeah, he just had that persona about him. And he was, in many respects, the Muhammad Ali of baseball. He could sell it, but man, he could back it up.
How was Josh Gibson?
Now, Gibson was the polar opposite. Gibson was a gentle giant. He was just a giant of a man.
He had stature. I'm saying physical stature.
I tell people all the time, if you want to get an understanding of the physique of Josh Gibson, think Bo Jackson as a catcher. Yeah. That's Josh Gibson.
All right.
6'1", yeah, 6'1", about 220. Big, broad shoulders. As Buck would say, neat in the waist, big, powerful thighs, big, powerful forearms. Had that trademark rolled up left sleeve, showing those guns. Never touched a weight in his life. That came from hauling hay and doing all that other work in the country. He was that kind of guy. And I think we all knew one of those kinds of guys in school that was so strong, but he didn't realize how strong he was. So he's the kind of guy that could poke you in your shoulder and it hurt. But he was as gentle a human being as you will ever meet. He was just a gentle, jolly giant of a man.
I think of him, and I don't know whether I'm thinking of him right, from the movies and things I see on about baseball and the parts that it's just so sad that he knew he was so good, and then when they tapped Satchel or Jackie, and then his tragic death.
Yeah. He just never got that opportunity, man. He dies at 35 from a brain tumor. And he's probably been misportrayed because he's been misportrayed as a drug addict and an alcoholic. And truth of the matter is, it was the brain tumor that was causing such pain to the point that nothing over the counter would alleviate the pain. So yeah, he did start self-medicating with alcohol, trying to alleviate the pain. And it's very tragic that this great ball player dies at 35. Now, again, you have to wonder at 35, would he have gotten an opportunity to play in the major leagues? Because he dies in January of 1947. Robinson breaks the color barrier in April. So it's debatable at 35 if he would have gotten a chance.
How old was Robinson when he broke the color barrier?
He's about 28. So he's old.
That's a big stretch.
It is a big stretch, but he's still old by baseball standards.
Right.
Yeah, that's old by baseball standards because they wanted you so they could get a 15, 20-year career out of you. So Jackie played about 10 years in the major leagues because he goes there, relatively old, for, like I said, for a baseball
after the Army and all of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So in wrapping this up so we can get to what we really want to talk about is the hammer. Do you have any parting words for any of your following as it relates to what they can do economically to help the Negro League? And before you sign off, talk about what the exhibits that you got down there and what you got planned.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we just opened up a brand new exhibit called Barrier Breakers. And the Barrier Breaker exhibit chronicles all of the players who broke their respective major league teams' color barriers. So from Jackie Robinson in 1947 joining the Brooklyn Dodgers through 12 years later, with Boston becoming the last team to integrate when they signed Pumpsie Green. That blows people away that it took 12 years before every major league team had at least one black baseball player. And so, Carlos, as you know, so typically in our society, we always celebrate the first. That's that pioneering first. We rarely remember the second guy. And
Right.
if you're number 16, you
You
can pretty much
you're a
forget
little
it.
through, but this is what I'm saying to you. Challenge to you. I'd like to have a show on your time set that that might be the subject, and you go and you talk about who went where
Yeah,
in that
yeah,
time frame so that we
yeah.
can
No, it's
have that
important.
documented.
It's important that we don't forget the other guys. You know, Larry Doby would go to the Cleveland Indians literally just weeks after Jackie, and he's almost the forgotten man. It's only been over the last decade that people started to pay rightful tribute to Larry Doby and his pioneering role. And and so we felt compelled that if we don't tell the story, who will?
Yeah,
And
well,
they deserve to be more than just a footnote in baseball and American history.
I think because I say politics rule everything because it does, and just so happens the corporations rule them. But I think that all of that and timing about Mellon and how people are now realizing who told these stories as I'm intertwining the Nelson Art Gallery. They talking about changing the name of the Nelson and all these things because people have told these stories and a lot of it has been lies and we have definitely been left out. And I think it's the conscious of the country that know it's been unfair and they've been stonewalling, but there's some cracks and uh, they're more willing to go with, hey, we need to straighten this up. These stories need to come out. We
Well,
need.
and I can't sit back and wait for somebody else to tell my story. You know, and that's why these cultural institutions are so important. You know, as well as others, there are gaps in the pages of American history books. There are so many who have contributed to the greatness of this country, and their stories have never been told, or certainly not told in its proper perspective. And so it is incumbent upon these institutions to fill that gap in.
Have you
And,
done
and
anything with Lewis Gates?
we
Yeah,
haven't. We haven't yet. I'm still hopeful that we might be able to do something.
I'm contacting him tonight and ask. I'm serious.
No, go right ahead.
Ask him because I was watching some. He does great pieces.
Yeah, yeah. We don't want these stories, Carlos, to be hidden. They've been hidden long enough, you know, and that's why people are just so surprised. You know, when they come here, man, and they learn that advents such as shin guards, batting helmet, came out of the Negro Leagues, night
Not
baseball.
games, right?
Yeah, all this stuff come out of the Negro Leagues, and people are like, I didn't know that. Of course you didn't know it. You know, as my mother would say, you don't know what you don't know. And in this case, you had no way to know because it's not in the history books. And so we've got to, as an institution, try to rewrite the pages of American history books. But until that time, it makes these cultural institutions extremely valuable, filling in the gaps where American historians basically ignored.
Well,
It's
this is
there.
what Cascade Media is doing. We are trying to eliminate Black History Month because by eliminating Black History Month, then we say 365. It's
Yeah,
history. If we
yeah,
eliminate Black History Month, let's just teach history. Everybody's included. Let's
include
try to get
everybody.
it right.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I've
I
had a
see
lot
where
of
you're coming from.
pushback that, and I say the only way you push back is because it's so much money involved in Black History Month, and different things. But that's like being a team player. I want to be the star versus having the team win. And a team win is them teaching history. A team loss is having Black History Month and confining us into a box. Yeah. And that's what we've been confined in, from that hidden colors to the telephone to whatever.
Well, I get it. And, you know, that's the thing we talk about all the time. We do Black History 365 days a year. That is what we do here, you know. And so February is a month, obviously, that others start to look toward us. But it's not a month that we've really focused that much on. I don't have to stop doing anything or do anything differently than what we do every single day.
Right. And that's another thing, what we're trying to do with Cascade Media Group and on all our programs, especially our sports. Sports is supposed to be a bringing together. You have an adversary relationship on the field, but sports is supposed to transcend color, religion, and all of that at its best. I know I was a sports person in the 60s, and society ruins everything. I grew up with a lot of white boys that I loved like my brothers, that and what have you. But by the time we got in college, things start going like that. And that's behind society. It has nothing to do with how we interact in sports, competitively and socially.
Oh, no question. No question. You know, and that's the beauty of sports. You know, and sports has always been at the forefront of creating social change in this country. Always has, always will.
I wanted to bring John Carlos on with you today to talk as a you know, of breaking barriers.
Oh yeah, man. Now you know I've got the utmost respect for John. If you'd had the two of us together, I just sat here and be quiet and listen to John, man. You know, when you helped bring him here, and we did the event at the museum, it was amazing. It was amazing to hear his story, and you know, I just have the utmost respect for him.
This is what we're doing. So you might not know Norman Tate. Norman was at the '68 Olympics also. So the last couple of days, I contacted Norman. He coached the Pan American team and what have you. He's a triple jumper and long jumper, and he's getting ready to host his own show on Cascade Sports.
Oh, great.
Bob Beeman, because John and all of them talk, bringing all the old athletes that are still alive and bringing them on, having conversations like we're having, getting their story from their mouth without any edits, without any breaks. And that's we're compiling something like that.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
So do you have any closing words?
No, man, you know, we're just thrilled with all the great things that have been happening in and around the Negro League Baseball Museum and the support. You know, during a very difficult time in this country dealing with coronavirus, and as if coronavirus wasn't enough, we move into a realm of social upheaval that was very reminiscent of the 1960s. And so with everything swirling around us in this nation, people found the wherewithal to want to support the museum. You know, so while we didn't see the level of corporate support, because so many of these corporations and foundations had to send, you know, had to move their money to help people. In times of health crisis, you got to help people. And I understand that. And so the arts have a tendency to fall by the wayside. But fortunately for us, we saw our individual donations grow maybe 3-4-fold, you know, and so people, even though they may have been going through challenges, found the ability to say, hey, I'm gonna send you $10 here or $25 here. And Carlos, it helps immensely. And so this museum has been able to kind of continue to operate in the Black, and we hope we can hold on to those good fortunes. You know, you're trying to ride this horse, man, as long as this horse will run.
Hey, but I let me say this. I think the job that you've done and the staff, because
Yeah.
You can't.
I got a great team. I have a great team, and they believe in the cause. I think they believe in me, which
No
makes
doubt.
them
Hey, I forgot her name, Kathy. One of them girls, they be like, Nelson, get off Bob's back. Get in line. I'm serious. They
No,
be like,
man, I enjoy, taking the field with this group, man, because I know they're gonna give you everything they got. And it's a lot easier when you have success, when you see the fruits of your labor, and I think every one of them believes in this project. We know that we're doing something that is bigger than we are. And if we do it right, we will have something that we will leave for others to enjoy. And in essence, you leave a legacy. And so I
tell them
think that
about that
drives and
gift
motivates all
shop.
of us.
Tell them about that gift shop because
Oh,
y'all done
yeah,
came
no,
out with some new
and I
stuff.
tell you, it's some great new gear in the shop. So you definitely want to check out the shop. Either come down to the museum and check it out, or check it out online at NLBM.com. Get your gear, wear it proudly, tell everybody where you got it. Because it does support the museum as well.
Hold it. It's people, and it's like advertisement for what you believe in. And what
because and I'll be honest, we want people to buy merchandise. We really do. But I also, Carlos, want them to know what they're wearing and the history behind it. So if you put on this Monarch shirt from 1924, I want to give you an understanding of who the 1924 Kansas City Monarchs were, or Homestead Grays. Who were the Homestead Grays? So yeah, I want you to wear this gear, but I also want you to know the history behind this gear. And hopefully in the process we can make history cool. Make it fashionable, we make it cool, but you also gain some knowledge from it as well.
I think all them products, everyone that I had, if I had some cake, all them products are fashionable.
Yeah.
I'm a New York man, the New York Cubans and all of the different things that you have there. The color schemes are so brilliant. And so I'm like, you talked about that swag with what's the name? That's the word I'll use for what you're in that.
No, and we're even excited because we're bringing in some new young licensees who've got they've got their pulse. They got the pulse on the street, so they know what the kids wanting, and so I'm excited about.
Boy, the Papa, he definitely know what's going down. With 8-1.
No, you know what? I'm so proud of that young man. He's doing an extraordinary job. I really am.
And he just had that operation and what have you. I'm wishing him the best. He's the type of, again, you turn chitlins into to the delicacy. We
Absolutely.
come out the streets and we make it happen.
He had a vision and he has a great business mind. And so I'm so happy to see the shop doing well. I hope, same thing, continued success, but first and foremost, continued good health for him. So, he's always in my thoughts and prayers.
So as we say in all our shows, when we close, when you invest in your community, you're really just investing in yourself.
This program is brought to you by Black Star.